Hello and welcome to Witchy Wellness Radio. I'm your host, Lauren Chalantani, women's holistic health coach and fellow recovering perfectionist. This podcast was created to show you that your body is not in the way, it is actually leading your way. Hello everybody, welcome back to Witchy Wellness Radio, and you are listening to episode 114, Fertile Bodies and Minds with Lynda Stretton. And today's episode, yes, is about conception. It's about having a fertile body for a baby. But also, what does that mean to be fertile and healthy if you aren't trying to reproduce? We get into that and so much more, being a female in today's world and what works and what doesn't work for our body. Lynda is a womb whisperer and a feminine healer, trying to help other women create fertile bodies and powerful minds. And she is so amazing and is offering a 20% off discount off any of her group programs or 101 services. Just make sure to use the code WICHY, WICTHY at checkout, and a link in the show notes with all of her courses and 101 services. And without further ado, please enjoy episode 114, Fertile Bodies and Minds with Lynda Stretton. Hello everybody. Welcome back to Witchy Wellness Radio. This is a show you learn how your body and your emotions are not in the way, but actually leading your way. And today we have a beautiful shining example. Our guest, Lynda Stretton, is a womb whisperer and feminine healer, helping women to create fertile bodies and powerful minds. Lynda uses a combination of nutritional therapy and mindset coaching to help women all over the world escape the hustle and burnout and reconnect with their true selves and embrace their feminine essence. Oof, I like that. That feels good. Welcome to the show, Lynda.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I know we can go so many places with this topic, but I wanted to hear first your backstory, because I know we have our own heroines' journeys of how you got to do the work that you do today to help other women transform their own lives.
Yeah, so my story kind of began, I guess, when I was about 19, and I developed an eating disorder. So I'd gone to university to study engineering, which is what my dad did. And I felt very out of alignment at university. I mean, there's a lot that went into it, but I basically developed this eating disorder. I became anorexic. I was anorexic for 5 years. And I later did a diploma in eating disorders and obesity. And I learned that, really what had driven that was this perfectionism within me. It was feeling that my life was out of control and feeling I needed to control something. So I felt I was on a career path that I didn't want to be on, but I could control what food went in my mouth and what exercise I was doing. So it's basically, over-exercising, under-eating. And along the way, I lost my cycle. And I just believed that I'd made myself infertile from being anorexic. And that became the story that I lived with. And I then sort of, finally found my way in my career. It was a long journey. There's a lot to it. But I ended up working in marketing, and my career progressed really fast. And I was head of marketing for 2 different brands. And I was traveling the world and traveling all the time and managing advertising and PR and celebrity partnerships and all these different things, all these amazing, really exciting things. But I essentially was overworking. I'd replaced this anorexia, this control on what I ate, and I replaced that with workaholism. So I was working kind of 16-hour days every day, sometimes 7 days a week. I couldn't switch off. As soon as I got home from work, I was working. Weekends, I was catching up on emails and doing presentations and everything. And then I was still over-exercising because whilst in inverted commas, I'd recovered from anorexia, I still was obsessed with the way my body looked. And for me, being skinny was like lovable. So I wanted to kind of be skinny all the time. So my non-negotiable was exercising 5 to 6 days a week. And that would take priority over everything else. So kind of spending time with my husband or seeing friends or anything like that. So because I worked such long hours, the only time I could fit in my exercise was set my alarm at 4:45 every morning And then I'd be working out from kind of 5 till 6. I'd do like a 10K run or HIIT training. But I had this such a huge barrier that I felt like if I worked out for anything less than 40 minutes, it was a waste of time. So it was like I had to work out for a minimum of 40 minutes. So I was doing this like exercise. And then I was like, again, in inverted commas, super healthy. You know, I had oats for breakfast. I had a salad for lunch, and I had, you know, not very much for my tea. And people that I worked with, like, oh, Lynda, she's super healthy because she gets up and she runs in the morning and then she has a salad for lunch and all these different things. But the reality was I was so healthy, I was super unhealthy. So I was having all of these symptoms for many, many years coming through. Obviously, I never got my cycle back. But when it got to its worst stage, I was having like really bad night sweats. So I was like dripping with sweat so much. Like I'd always have to get up to get changed in the night. If it was really bad, we'd have to change the sheets. I'd have to get my husband up to change the sheets as well. I was getting hormonal acne all the way down my face. I had really bad depression and anxiety. I'd lived with depression for years. I just thought I had depression. Like it was a thing I always had to have ever since the anorexia. Anxiety. I kept getting migraines and shooting pains down the back of my eyes. And this wasn't something that went on for a few months. This was something that was going on for years. This was like 5 years of these migraines, anxiety, depression, all these different things going on. And I was just living with all of these symptoms whilst at the same time being this really outgoing, happy kind of workaholic girl. And from the outside, everyone thinking that I was, you know, this picture of health, and then no one knew. Oh, and I was really constipated all the time as well. So, you know, I wouldn't ever move my bowels. It'd be like fortnightly poo, and I'd celebrate it with my husband. It was like, yay, do my fortnightly poo. And all this stuff going on. Anyway, when it all hit a head, and I've kind of missed out from that journey, that when I'd like left university in the engineering degree, I kept having this calling to go and learn about nutrition. And I actually went and studied nutrition at the time, but it was when I still had my eating disorder. And whilst it was great for me, because I did my master's in nutrition, I went on to do my diploma in eating disorders, I didn't feel strong enough to help people with eating disorders. And at the time, that was my thing. I was like, oh, I'm going to go and help other people. So that's how I then ended up in marketing. But it was kind of many years later, I just kept getting this pull back to go and study nutrition again. I was like, I really, really, really want to help people with nutrition, but I didn't like follow it through last time. I don't know if I should. Anyway, went back to university, did another 3-year degree in nutrition. This time it was very different. So there's different forms of nutrition. That when I went back this time, it was nutritional therapy, which is very holistic. It sees the body as being completely connected. And if you see a symptom in one area, that's like it not coming from there, we're coming from somewhere else. And we treat the root cause, and we treat it with nutrition and lifestyle changes and supplements. And it felt much more aligned than the first degree I'd done. And whilst I was on this journey of learning about nutrition, I had this like light bulb moment going, oh my God, like looking at what nutrients do and how many of them I'm lacking with this, you know, really healthy inverted commas diets, which is really low fat, and I'm not getting very much volume and all these different things. I started to make some changes, and essentially I was able to bring my cycle back after having lost it for 17 years. So 17 years of believing I was infertile. I brought my cycle back after 9 months and decided to start a family with my husband, because I was 37 at this point. And I was kind of like, oh, if we're going to have a child, we might as well try now, because I've got my cycle back. So we got my cycle back. 3 cycles later, I was like, should we try? And we tried, and we fell pregnant the first time we tried, which was just incredible. And so, and then that's basically then began my journey to thinking, well, as much as I love this marketing thing, it's not in alignment with me. We could talk about a whole different subject about human design. I'm a projector in human design, and those 16-hour days just weren't right for me. But the other thing that people used to say when I used to work in marketing was like, you should go and work for a charity, or you should work for yourself, because everyone used to say you care more about people than you do about the bottom line. And I'd be like, yeah, that's such a compliment. And like my boss, the marketing director, be like, and it's not a compliment. The business want you to make money. And I'm like, I know, but I do care about people. So it was a really lovely, you know, I always believe everything that happens to us happens for a reason. And the path we've been on helps us with that next stage. And the fact I kind of had this 15-year marketing career which then helped me launch my own business and quite quickly, get out and reach more people has been incredible for me. But yeah, off the back of me falling pregnant, having my little boy, I then launched my nutritional therapy business, and I now help women. As I was just explaining to you before we came on air, it's really hard to explain what I do because I hate to niche down and say I help with a specific thing. But I really help women create fertile bodies and powerful minds. And what I mean by that is I do help a lot of women on fertility journeys, and I have a 10-week fertility program. I'm currently in round 3, and we've got round 4 coming up at the end of August. And I'm super passionate about fertility, but I believe every woman should have a fertile body because a fertile body is a sign of health. Obviously, if you've gone through menopause, we're talking about something different, but those premenopausal years, whether you want to have a baby or not, I had all of those years where I didn't ovulate. And it was only when I was studying nutrition the second time, I discovered that progesterone is predominantly produced after ovulation from our corpus luteum. So that gets left behind after we ovulate. And we have this beautiful progesterone surge. And progesterone is our anti-anxiety, antidepressive, and antidiuretic. So if we're not ovulating every cycle, we're not getting that beautiful surge of progesterone. So no wonder for 17 years, as well as all the gut health issues and everything else I had going on, no wonder I had anxiety and depression for so long because I wasn't producing progesterone because I wasn't ovulating. And that's just a tiny example. So yeah, I love to create fertile bodies, whether people want children or not. And also I'm super passionate about helping women again later in life. So I'm currently pregnant with my second child and I'm 40 years old. Again, completely natural conception the first time we tried. And there's such a myth around as we get older, we're more likely to become infertile and then we need to have IVF and all these things, and people get forced down that route. But I truly believe there are so few people in the world who are actually infertile. Most of us just have imbalances in our body that are telling our body the world isn't a safe place to bring a child into right now, or your body isn't in a position to look after that child optimally. So it just suppresses our fertility. But I don't believe anyone's infertile, and I won't use that word. I say fertility challenges. When I work with my clients and on my course, I will say, you're facing fertility challenges right now, but let's get your body back into alignment. And when we bring our body completely into alignment, and that isn't just balancing our hormones, that is so much more than that, which probably haven't got time to talk about everything. But when we bring our body into alignment and the body starts, and the brain starts to go, okay, this is a safe place to nurture a child and the outside world is a safe place to bring a child into, then we can fall pregnant naturally. So yeah, so that's the fertile body bit. And then the powerful mind bit really ties in with, for so long, I was repressing the feminine and I was just trying to be a man, and that went from my anorexia, it was literally suppressing my feminine form, suppressing the boobs and the hips and all, and becoming less attractive to the males that were at university. And, suddenly people didn't want to be friends with you. They wanted more from you. And I was really uncomfortable with that because I'd always been a bit of a lad's girl. I had loads of male friends. But it's also, then kind of always been in my masculine energy, this doer, this giver, this constant hustle and force. And I really had no connection to my intuition whatsoever. I had no idea what my body needed. I had no idea what I wanted out of life. I just knew I was really miserable. And it's because I was just never came into this feminine. So obviously we could talk about each of those things on their own right on this podcast, but I'd like to combine the two with women that I work with. I don't want to just work in one. I like to make sure that we're getting to root causes of any of their behaviors that are creating their fertility challenges. And that could be because of the hustle and force and this constant production of cortisol and adrenaline, which are our long-term and short-term stress hormones. So just give an overview really quickly. Adrenaline is a tiger is chasing you, run away. And our cortisol is there's a long-term stress being going on. There must be a famine, flood, or war. There's no food left in the world. And both of those basically mean now's not the time to bring a baby into the world because you've got a tiger chasing you and you've got no food in the world. So, a lot of women are living in that state, which is why the fertility challenges are coming through. But, there'd be other things, I even talk to people about, are they eating foods that they really want? Or are they eating what their partner wants to eat, which may not be the best thing for their body, but they feel like they can't put boundaries. They can't say no. They can't say what they want, because as women, we've become, so feminine, I just at this point, feminine is supposed to be receiving, but as women, we're givers, which is masculine energy. And we've become really bad at receiving help, receiving compliments. I mean, how many times do you get a compliment? You just shut it down. It's like, you look great. Oh no, you look great. You look better than me today. We shut this down. We don't receive. And as women are just kind of living in this masculine energy all the time. So yeah, if it's simple things like setting boundaries, actually, no, like if this is what I want to nourish my body with, yeah, you by all means, husband, partner, whoever you are, you can eat that. But I'm choosing my body. I want this. Plus, obviously, the list goes on. So yeah, I mean, that's a nutshell. That's now how I support women across the board with the mindset and the nutritional therapy stuff.
Beautiful. And I don't think so many of us realize like the toxins in our environment, our diet, also of our minds. And I know for me in my own health journey, I'm not trying to be pregnant right now, but creating that fertile body and these different health symptoms that are popping up, I realize are liver related issues.
Yeah.
And things like, and I go back and forth. It makes me so sad. Coffee.
Yeah.
Really if you drink a lot of coffee, it can mess with your hormones, can mess with your liver. And it's this love-hate relationship where my body just can't handle. Even I'll have a decaf maybe a few times a month, but hormonally my body can't process it. So it's like, okay, where are these toxins coming in my life? How can I optimize my body? Because I eat very healthy already, what's coming up, but people who are not aware of their body and these symptoms, and just looking for, I don't want to say a pill or, an easy solution, don't realize that our bodies and our health, mind, body, and soul are like a garden and that need tending to.
Yeah. And I love that you identified, okay, because everyone's different. This is what's really important. We're all biochemically unique. What one person can do, another one might not be able to do. So someone might be, I personally, I hate restriction because I've been anorexic. So when I start working with clients, I'm very clear. I'm not going to tell them to restrict everything. I don't even tell people to completely cut out alcohol. I've had people come to me, they're on a green juice for breakfast. They've been put on a green juice, vegan, no alcohol, no caffeine diet. They've been doing it for 6 months. They're still not pregnant. And the first thing I say is, when are you ovulating next weekend? Okay, have a glass of wine and have sex, because the restriction isn't working for you. But obviously all needs to be done in moderation. I'm not drinking every single night, but sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to restrict things, then that's producing the adrenaline and the cortisol, which are then putting out the danger signals to the body. But yeah, I love that you've noticed, like for you, caffeine is a no-go. It's like, actually, if I'm having it, I feel really bad. Some people might be fine. I mean, I don't like people to have more than one coffee, but if they're just having one coffee in the morning, what I do say with caffeine, I'll make this point because I'm really passionate about this. Caffeine causes adrenaline and cortisol production in the body. So when we wake in the morning, our cortisol should be its highest, but our blood sugar will be at its lowest because we've basically starved ourselves overnight. And if we don't eat when we wake, so within the first hour of waking, what will happen is we need glucose in the bloodstream to fuel all of our processes. So what will happen is if we don't eat, and we just have a coffee. So if we just have a coffee, we're shooting up our cortisol and adrenaline to start with, because we've not balanced that blood sugar straight away, and we've just having this cortisol. And then the cortisol, if we haven't got glucose in the bloodstream, the cortisol needs to get pumped out more to move glucose into the bloodstream, because that's what cortisol does. It thinks there's no food in the world, so it's trying to raise blood sugar. And what it's doing is it's taking it from our liver stores and from muscle. So we can actually start to literally break down our muscle to try and get glucose. So that in itself is a whole subject. But if we're going to have caffeine, what I always ask people to do is to make sure they have their breakfast first. So they balance that blood sugar, they've got some glucose in the bloodstream, and have it 30 minutes after they've had their breakfast. So they balance the blood sugar, but away from food, because caffeine actually impairs absorption of certain nutrients like iron and vitamin C. So we don't want to be having it with that food and like blocking that absorption. So yeah, I don't like to tell people to restrict stuff completely, but I like people to eat strategically is what I say. Another one is, alcohol. Again, I'm personally not a big drinker. I was a huge drinker in my really depressed days when I thought that alcohol was an escapism, and I would drink until I blacked out and have no memory of getting home the next day. And it's the scariest time of my life. But I don't like to tell other people they can't drink. But I do think, 1 to 2 glasses a week of wine maximum. But what I can sometimes find is it can really affect people's liver detoxification, like you just talked about. And liver detoxification is super important for balanced hormones, because what happens is we make our hormones, we use our hormones, and then we need to detoxify them and pass them out in our stool. If we don't do that, imagine we're just producing more and more hormones, we're getting more and more in the system. And what a common thing in our current environment is something we refer to as estrogen dominance. And this happens because lots of different factors. It's by far the most common thing I see. I personally am prone to low estrogen. So if you get low estrogen, that's when your bleed becomes really light. You may get, 1.5 days and you're barely bleeding in that time. That would be a symptom you've got low estrogen. That's a genetic predisposition for me. It's one thing that affects me if I start to get chronically stressed, not sleeping. But most people are the opposite. So if you're getting like heavy, painful, crampy periods, breast tenderness, PMS symptoms running up to your period, it's likely that you've either got low progesterone and normal estrogen, or elevated estrogen, or you may have normal progesterone, elevated estrogen, but you've got this relative state of estrogen dominance. And this comes about basically because our livers are overburdened, like you've just talked about. Our livers are overburdened because we've got toxins in our water, in the air we breathe, pesticides on the food that we eat. If we're having conventionally raised meat, these cows, whatever animal it is you're eating, they are given antibiotics and different chemicals basically to stop them getting ill, and growth hormones and lots of different things. And all of these things need to go to the liver to be detoxified. So there's all these things coming through your food we eat, and then our makeup products, our skincare products, our household cleaners. So just imagine like the amount of toxins we have now that didn't exist 100 years ago. Our bodies just don't have the ability to cope with so many toxins. And if we're not getting the nutrients the liver needs to do its job, so the liver needs lots of different nutrients, including amino acids. So this is another thing, that we actually need really good quality protein for the liver to do its job optimally. We need B vitamins and loads more things. I do a whole masterclass just on the liver. But yeah, so if it's getting overloaded, it's got too much coming in, and it hasn't got enough nutrients to support it doing its job. And so what happens is it goes, right, okay, I've got some used hormones here. Well, I made those myself. They can't be too bad for me, but I've got all of these external toxins. They must be worse. I'll deal with those, and I'll just send those used hormones back into circulation, because I can't deal with everything at once. And then we get this estrogen dominance. And then on top of that, we've got these kind of chemicals in the environment, things like BPA, in plastics, phthalates, all these different things that act as estrogens themselves. We call them xenoestrogens. And what they can do is attach to estrogen receptors and exert estrogen's effects, basically. So then we get this like more chronic estrogen effect in the body. And then I don't even know how I started talking about this, but I'm going on such a tangent, sorry. But yeah, some people notice that they can't deal with alcohol. It like really affects them if they're getting, if they're getting really hot with it, or they're getting skin rashes, that kind of thing, for having alcohol, but they really can't give it up. What I say to them is, drink alcohol strategically. So I'm going to let you have a glass of wine 2 weekends a month, but in the week running up to your period, when you're going to be getting those estrogen dominant symptoms and PMSy and you're getting the painful period, please cut out that half. So yeah, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have any alcohol, but that was my point, wasn't it? I was saying, do things strategically. Yeah, do things strategically, so you can still enjoy life and live it to its fullest. But we'll finish that subject quickly, but pooing, and touched on it with me. We should be moving our bowels every single day, because that's another thing. So if we even if our liver's working amazingly, if things go into the stool and we don't then move that stool out, toxins then start to get reabsorbed through the gut lining and go back into circulation. So that's another thing. So we always have to start with moving our bowels every day. Then we can start to support the liver. If we support the liver and we're not moving our bowels, we're just going to make things worse because we're speeding everything up and we're not moving it out. But yeah, start with moving the bowel. But what I really wanted to say at the start of all this, before I went on my tangent, is your body is always communicating to you, like always, always. So if you get any symptom of any kind, whether that's brain fog or muscle aches or painful periods or no periods, or you're not ovulating or skin rashes, whatever it is, it's just trying to tell you something's wrong. But what happens is we get so used to living with symptoms that are normal that we just ignore them. And it's like, fatigue is like such a huge one. People have just become accustomed to being exhausted, not being able to wake up in the morning, feeling exhausted all day, getting to 5 o'clock and then being like, I just want to crash in front of the TV for the rest of the evening. Whereas we shouldn't be fatigued. We've got healthy, well people in their 80s, 90s who have more energy than people in their 20s or 30s because they're living better lifestyles than we are. And I'm actually 40. So, I'm not even in that bracket. But yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, like you said, you notice the symptoms in your body so you don't have it. And that's the one thing I would ask everyone to do. Just start to be more aware of symptoms you're getting and start to write them down. They could be in response to certain foods. They could be in response to where you are in your cycle. They could be just never-ending things that occur all the time. But I think just start to listen to those messages when you're getting them, and then you can start to piece the puzzle together and work out what's going on. And then, as I said at the start, then you can start to heal from the root. Because if you're getting a skin rash, it's not your skin that there's something wrong with. Putting a bit of cream on is going to help you feel better in the short term. But really, your skin rash is probably coming because you've got poor gut health or poor liver detoxification. So it's using your skin as a detoxification channel. So it's just like little things like that, basically.
That all add up and, and impact our fertility challenges, as you said.
Exactly. Yes.
We have a few minutes left, but I would love to hear, you briefly touched on your, I believe, 8-week fertility, fast track your fertility. I would love to hear kind of synopsis of who it's for, what to expect.
Yeah. Yes, it's actually 10 weeks. So it launched as 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
And I always try and make it a little bit shorter because I always think, it's such a huge amount of time for people to dedicate, but without every single time it ends up increasing. So I've just settled with 10 weeks. It's 10 weeks. So it's basically for anybody who is currently trying and failing to fall pregnant or wants to try in the next kind of 6 to 12 months. I really believe in preconception care. I call it fast track your fertility because that's the kind of the buzzword that people are like, I want to be fertile, I want to fall pregnant. But really, I want you to have really great health before you go into pregnancy, which is preconception care. So if you want to try in 12 months, it's perfect for you because it gives you a really great amount of time to get your body in a really great place, because pregnancy itself is really depleting, particularly if you have a really rough first trimester, which I've had both times with pregnancy. We may struggle to get anything in, so you want to have a good base. But if you've literally got IVF in 3 months' time, it's still absolutely amazing for you because we just need a minimum of 3 months, because essentially it takes 3 months for an egg to mature, ready to ovulate. And it's in those 3 months that we really want to be making that egg as healthy as possible. So we ovulate a really healthy egg, and that's going to have more chance of becoming healthy embryo that implants and we maintain to pregnancy. Because I'll just explain this really quickly. 40 to 50% of miscarriages are believed, it could be up to 70%. Like they're not even that sure, because we have so many people potentially losing babies or embryos before they'd even realize they'd fallen pregnant because it happens so early. But it's thought that around 40 to 50% of like early pregnancy losses are due to chromosomal abnormalities in the egg or sperm. That means that the embryo is chromosomally abnormal, and the body kind of, again, always looking out for the survival of the human race. It's like, I'm not sure that that's going to survive in the outside world because it's got a few errors in it, so it might let it go. And so just think, if that's happening, how many people are not falling pregnant just because they've got these abnormalities and the body's just not letting it kind of happen. So minimum of 3 months. So it's a 10-week program. So I do egg and sperm health right at the start. It's the first thing that we do, so that as people go through the program, they are using those 10 weeks to work on their egg and sperm health. And then, so anyone basically wants to fall pregnant. And then what I do is I cover absolutely every single possible body misalignment that could be preventing pregnancy from happening, basically. And we touch on sperm as well, because the women take a lot of the pressure, and they really shouldn't. People go, oh, the swimmers are fine, but actually there could be something else going on. The seminal microbiome, for example, is a whole week I do on the reproductive microbiome, which is male and female, and the different things that could be going on. And it's really deep. It's so detailed, and you get so much support from me. I break everything down into short videos. So it's all hosted on a teaching platform, and they kind of vary from, 5 to 20 minutes. I try and keep them about 10, but it just sort of depends how much there's in a subject. But what I do is I give this really detailed PDF workbook with it all. So you can watch those videos, but you don't have to spend hours making notes. And I'm so passionate about this. I've done so many group programs where I've gone, and there's every week there's an hour presentation, but they don't give you anything, and then you spend 3 more hours having to watch the video back and make your own notes on it. So I do these really detailed workbooks that are usually 60 to 70 pages, and throughout those workbooks, there's the signs and symptoms that you can tick off to see how relevant that system is, and then I tell you the root causes so you can get to the root cause, and then the ways you can heal it as well. There's 10 weeks of that. We also do a lot of mindset work in there. So there's an introductory module, which is all about getting to the root cause of your fertility challenges from an energetic perspective. And people may not have considered this, but it's something that I see without a doubt with every single client. They either have some kind of subconscious limiting belief around their fertility journey itself, pregnancy, birth, or motherhood. So, for example, in my case, and before I did this work, I didn't realize that I had this deep-rooted inner belief I was going to die in childbirth, or that I was this workaholic and I was going to be this absent mother because I couldn't give up my career, because I'd have to give up my career if I had a child. I was this workaholic, and then I'd never be around, and I'd have a really bad relationship with my child. It would hate me and I'd regret having it. I had all these different root beliefs, and everyone has different ones. Some might have had a really bad relationship with their mum and they think they're going to be a really bad mum. But there's a mindset prep week where I take people through lots of journal prompts in terms of getting to the root. And then we go through all the different body systems, and every step of the way, I'm helping people work out what's going on, how they can bring the body into alignment. And the special thing about this next round that kicks off on the 29th of August is it's my last live round before I go on maternity leave, and potentially my last live round. I'm not sure if I'll bring it back next year or not. It's always going to exist as an evergreen program. You can do it in your own time. But when you do the live round with me, you get access to the private Facebook group, which I'm in all the time answering questions. And also we do a weekly connection call. And I call it a weekly connection call because fertility journeys can be really challenging. People can feel very alone, feel like they can't even talk to their partner about what's going on because it's not their partner's body that's going through it. So as much as their partner may be disappointed every month when you get your period, because they also want you to fall pregnant, it's not them going through it. So connecting, I'm getting goosebumps as I say this, it's connecting with those other women that are on the same journey as you. And we share everything that's come up for this week. And obviously I do a Q&A, and we have a beautiful meditation, connect with our babies and lots of other things. But those juicy additions, the connection calls and the Facebook group are like a beautiful aspect that, just fills my heart with joy. So as I say, I'm currently in my 3rd round of it at the moment. We've got 16 beautiful women going through it. We're in week 4 at the moment. And next round will kick off on 29th of August.
Yeah, and we'll have all those links in the show notes so you guys can learn more.
Yeah, and what I'll do is I'll pop you a discount code that you can include as well for your audience. Awesome. So if anyone wants to get like a little cheeky discount, I'll give you a code so you can use that as well.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you so much, Lynda, for coming on the show and outpouring a wealth of wisdom. I learned a lot. I'm blown away. So thank you. And we close every single show thanking you for showing up. And myself and the listeners, how can we, as an act of gratitude, be of service for you in return today?
Oh my God, you're so sweet. Firstly, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed it. And I am very aware I talk a lot, so apologies for that. I mean, I have a podcast as well, Embrace Your Feminine Essence, which you are going to be coming on to really soon as well, which I'm super excited about. So I mean, I'd love you just to come and have a listen to that. If you resonate with me and want to know more, obviously come along, connect with me on Instagram as well. We'll pop that in the show notes as well. It's Lynda with a Y, Lynda.Stretton. But I shared everything to do with women's health and perfectionism and being in our masculine and, really embracing our feminine. I'm so passionate about it because I think so many of us have just tried to shut it down. And in the process of shutting down our femininity, we're creating these challenges within our bodies as well. So please come and find me on Instagram and please come and listen to the podcast. I'd be so grateful.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much again, Lynda, for coming on. It was such a pleasure today.
Thank you.
And remember, open up, surrender, trust, and let your body lead the way.